Hey, how you guys doing? I'm Tito Savage from BSN Comics, so I'm here for another episode of Tito Versus, and today we're going to be talking about crows. Personally, Crows is my favorite manga series. I've read a lot of them. Um, it's more of a high school delinquent, punk teenager kind of a manga, but it to me is probably like one of the best pieces of manga out there. It has like multiple series. It starts off with Crows, and then there's Crows the Aftermath that leads into Worse, and from Worse you have the Guidance, which are, I guess, they're like precursors to, one is like the history of the front of armament, and the other one is about the twin brothers that take in Hana and the rest of the guys in the Crows in the Worse universe. Um I would like to start off with just like how the layout of the world is. It's just one giant town, and in this town there's a minimum of 12 high schools, and then there's two or three big players. Each high school kind of has its own rules on the setup, on how they're governed. So you have like Suzuran, who has multiple factions, different gangs, but don't really have one overall leader that can rally the entire school together. The school either rallies together because a single threat is attacking the school, or otherwise they're pretty much just fighting each other. Then you have Huzen, or the Huzen Killer Corps, and they have generally one leader and a leader for each of the grades. So you have one leader for the overall school, one leader for seniors, one leader for freshmen, one leader for sophomores. And then also in the same town, there's 7 different biker gangs, and each one controls a certain amount of territory and have like their own infighting. And that's where the front of armament is found. So within this town, there are 4 major fighters. They're called the Big Four, the Four Kings. One usually hails from Suzuran, the other one hails from Huzen, one from the Kuretake Alliance, and another one from the Front of Armament. In the Crow series, it's Buya Harumichi, it's Bulldog, one of the Beto brothers, and then the other one is Ryushin. Those are the first 4. Then after that, it's Zatan, from Zatan to the younger Beto brother, if I'm not mistaken, King Joe, and I forgot who the front of armament guy is. If I'm not mistaken, it's not Ryushin anymore. Well, that's besides the fact. So the power structure switches up halfway through the first series, and then in Worse, which is the sequel, it changes up again. So there's another big 4 or 4 kings in this world. The series kind of, as you start reading Crows, in the beginning, it's kind of choppy. There's not a very linear storyline. It's kind of like jumbled together. But as you're reading, there's like a page at the end of every manga, and it kind of like keeps track of the writer's journey while creating this story. So you start realizing in the first like 15 to 20 chapters, he really wasn't good at storyboarding. But as the story continues on in the later chapters, his storyboarding gets a lot better, and then it starts becoming a really good piece of entertainment, like a very good piece of manga for you to read. The characters start getting very developed. The relationships start getting heavily developed. The comedy within it is real good. It's really about building. It's really about relationship building amongst all these different characters. And sometimes you can feel like you're getting overwhelmed because there's a lot of characters getting introduced all the time. Every school year, there's usually like a new transfer student. The characters get older, so they look different. They change their looks a lot as the school year and the semesters progress and the fights continue on. So you could start off with one character and he'll look completely different by the end of Crows, And then at the very end of Crows, they introduce a new set of characters. And that's like one of the big pieces what I love about the series is that there's always switching up of the main characters as the seniors start graduating out of Suzuran, who's in the rest of these different schools. The freshmen start taking over, and they start building up and constantly adding new characters. And then there's an element to the series itself that, and then to this world that it's usually the outsiders, people who come from other towns, other cities that weren't born and raised in this one particular town, that changes the whole history of the town itself and the way the gangs are and the way the politics of the town is kind of governed, you know. In the very beginning of Crows is Buya Harumichi. He's the first guy to really change the overall makeup of the town and how the different gangs kind of like interact with one another. He like single-handedly destroys the front of armament, which causes that entire gang to go through like a rebuilding sort of, and refining of who they are and going back to the basics of the gang. Then he kind of changes the relationships of the students in Suzuran, where everybody was kind of, you know, gang versus gang and nobody really would bow to one particular guy. He started slowly unifying the school, which is a very large theme of the Crows and the Worst universe. It's about unifying this one school called Suzuran and how nobody in its entire history has ever been able to get every single gang under one specific leader. And it doesn't necessarily happen until the end of Worst. And even then, the character that takes it over, in the beginning, he's one of the strongest characters, but then he gets defeated twice, which is an aspect of the manga that I really love a lot, is the fact that you can have a favorite character that is not the main character, and he can, for a fact, put up a decent fight or a good fight against the main character, and when they actually go head to head, you really don't know who's going to win that fight. And the way the characters kind of evolve, you have some characters who start off real childish, and they're kind of like sneaky in the beginning with how they enter a gang or whatever, and then by the end they end up becoming like a completely different character, like somebody that's noble or somebody that you can really look up to. And some of the strongest characters are actually just goofballs. Like Booya is a goofball. He usually just chases girls around the entire series. He usually gets into fights either because one of his friends gets into a fight, or, you know, somebody tries to disrespect him. The main character for Worst, which is Tsukishima Hana, he's like this kid from the middle of Japan, and he has, like, he's from a town, he's like from this small village where you can't even get a cell phone signal, so he just never had a cell phone in his life. He has to like go, like, walk past 3 mountains to get to school and all that. So when he enters this world, he kind of like shakes everything to its core. Then you also have like the loners. There's people and characters that are kind of in the series that are meant to keep the universe in check. So while you have the one character going, like the main character kind of climbing up the tree, there's usually like this one major character that they can't seem to beat. For Crows, it's Renderman, and for Worst, it is Goriko. And they end up stopping the main character. The main characters can never beat them. Even into the movies Crow Zero and Crow Zero 2, which, you know, if you get into this series, you might want to watch it. You might actually want to watch it first, and if you enjoy that, get into the series. Overall, I'll give the series about an 8.5, just for character development, originality of the universe, and rereadability. I've probably gone into the series like 4 times, and there's always something new that you kind of just like pick up while you're reading it. So that's my overall judgment for Crows and for Worst. If you really enjoy it, you can find it on pretty much any manga site out there. It is by Hiroshi Takahashi. It's a very great series, so I really recommend that you guys go out there and check it out. If you guys enjoyed this video, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, please share. And you can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, And you can find our podcast on pretty much anywhere you guys can find podcasts. All right. Until next time, I'm Tito Savage. Have a wonderful time, guys.